Hey, good evening. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Gadi Schwartz coming to you from Los Angeles, and here are the stories we're watching tonight, starting with the impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden.
The House Oversight and Accountability Committee has uncovered a mountain of evidence revealing how Joe Biden abused his public office for his family's financial gain.
Republicans pushing forward while Democrats, on the other hand, say the whole thing is a political stunt.
We're 62 hours away from shutting down the government of the United States of America, and Republicans are launching an impeachment drive based on a long debunked and discredited lie.
And speaking of government shutdown, word is already going out to federal workers that this thing is very, very likely to happen. Then cops in New York seize a number of ghost guns and the 3D printer that made them from a daycare center in Harlem. And have you ever wondered what it would feel like to jump out of a hot air balloon at 38,000 feet? Yeah, me too. So stick around and we're going to introduce you to the people that can tell us all about it. And we are starting tonight in Washington, where over on Capitol Hill, two dueling stories are going down. One impacting the future of millions of Americans, and the other, the future of the sitting president, Joe Biden. Let's start with that one first. The House Oversight Committee held its first impeachment hearing of President Biden, led by House Republicans who allege Biden used his position to make his family richer and benefit his son, Hunter Biden, claiming that the Biden family members raked in millions of dollars between 2014 and 2019 from foreign sources like China. But according to a panel of witnesses picked by Republicans themselves, so far, there's no evidence to prove it.
I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment. That is something that an inquiry has to establish.
I am not here today to even suggest that there was corruption, fraud, or any wrongdoing. In my opinion, more information needs to be gathered and assessed before I would make such an assessment.
Meanwhile, some Democrats brought a clock to that impeachment hearing, counting down the number of days, hours, and minutes to a government shutdown.
So let's get it straight. We're 62 hours away from shutting down the government of the United States of America, and Republicans are launching an impeachment drive based on a long debunked and discredited lie. No foreign enemy has ever been able to shut down the government of the United States, but now MAGA Republicans are about to do just that.
Now, unless a deal is done to extend government funding beyond Saturday, millions of federal workers and military service members will likely stop getting paid. The government's set to run out of money first thing Sunday morning, with a lot of the government expected to grind to a halt. So let's get up to speed on all of these latest developments with none other than our very own Hallie Jackson. Hallie, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Starting with this talk of impeachment, is there some sort of specific smoking gun Republicans are pointing to here?
Well, so the Republicans are laying the case for why they think they should be investigating whether there is a smoking gun. But as Democrats point out, they have not actually provided any evidence of that yet. And Gadi, we know that House Republicans over on Capitol Hill, not too far from where I'm sitting, have been trying to investigate the president's son, Hunter, for months now. That was something they did as soon as they took control of the House of Representatives. It was among the first orders of business. The question is, did President Biden get involved in anything that was illegal, unethical, wrong, immoral, et cetera, related to his son's business dealings? So far, even after all these months, all these weeks, Gadi, there has been no evidence presented by Republicans of that. That's part of why it's so striking. And it was such a big takeaway today to hear those two witnesses you just played, right? The sound bites, as we call them, from those two people suggesting, including Jonathan Turley, a well-known conservative voice on cable news, et cetera. He's a conservative commentator, if you will, has a law background, of course, saying that he does not believe there is enough evidence at this point to move forward with an impeachment of President Biden. That said, he did say that it is potentially worth continuing to move forward with the inquiry about it. But it does raise some questions here about what Republicans had hoped to get out of today. It is the first step towards the potential impeachment of President Biden, Gadi, but clearly based on the events of the last, 7 hours or so, pretty far away from that, at least at this point.
What's the GOP calling for, especially when it comes to what we just heard from the witnesses that they chose?
more information. They want more records. They want more receipts, basically more paper. They want to get a lot more stuff that they think will show that there is, in fact, a link between what President Biden has done related to his son and Hunter Biden's business dealings overseas, specifically related to this Ukrainian company. So that is part of what this is all about, is trying to basically get more access to stuff that they want to know. You've heard Democrats make the case, well, wait a second, we've gotten what we've asked for so far, pointing out, you probably saw the prop, I'm looking to see if we're showing it here, those big boxes, cardboard boxes that Democrats brought in to show, listen, we're getting information. It's just that none of it, in their argument, shows what Republicans claim that they would want to see, or claim that they could end up seeing, which is some sort of piece of evidence that links the president to any wrongdoing.
Talking about this shutdown, I mean, you're in D.C., you're talking to everybody there. Does it seem like this thing is a done deal at this point? Does it seem like it's going to happen?
I hate to say those kinds of things like with such certainty, Gadi, because if there's anything I've learned in many years covering Washington and reporting in general, like you just don't know what's up until it's done, right? And so until like Sunday at midnight, right, the clock ticks over from 11:59 p.m. Saturday, we really can't say 100%. I will just tell you that the conversations seem to be far, far less around will it happen and far, far more around how long is it going to stretch? And that's like a really important question here for a couple of reasons. We may be sitting here talking like we're not federal workers. Many people in the audience may not be federal workers. They're having the most immediate and direct impact because they end up furloughed. Many of them don't get paid. But the longer this government shutdown stretches, the more of an impact so many more people outside of the Beltway, well outside of the Washington Beltway, will end up feeling the impacts of that, Gadi. And that's sort of what everybody's kind of bracing for at this moment is if there is a shutdown and it looks like we are headed in that direction, how deep is it going to cut, if you will?
Perfect example of that is what's happening down on the southern border, right? So outside of the Beltway, what does this do to a crisis as politically charged as the border? Both Democrats and Republicans have been arguing about what to do about border security. But if a shutdown does happen, what happens to CBP or Border Patrol?
Listen, there are still government workers who will continue to be on the job, right? They're considered, they used to call them, I think, essential personnel, exempted workers that still work as it relates to sort of mission critical type things. Agencies will decide who those people are, et cetera. So it's not as though you're going to see like huge walk-offs off the job, if you will. Here's one place that it could have an impact that could be very visible, and that's as it relates to air travel. You're already hearing some of these warnings now, including from the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, that if this shutdown lasts even just a few days, it could have a huge impact on like a domino effect for people who are trying to fly, to go on vacation, to, go on business trips, whatever the case may be, because of the concerns about what happens to, let's say, TSA workers and the potential for, mass call-outs, if you will. If you're looking to travel internationally, passport offices probably would not be open. So it's those kinds of more consumer-based impacts that will probably have more of an effect on the lives of, people around the country.
Hallie Jackson, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And taking a closer look now at how this looming shutdown could impact you, NBC's Noah Pransky has some answers.
There is so much noise coming out of Washington.
Prevent a government shutdown.
The government could shut down. Avoid a government shutdown.
But here's everything you actually need to know about a possible government shutdown. How does it affect me? Well, if you're one of the millions of employees furloughed in a shutdown, from civilian defense staffers to medical researchers, you won't be paid and you won't be working after September 30th. Employees deemed essential won't be paid either, but they'll still have to work, like service members, Border Patrol agents, and TSA screeners. They'll get back pay eventually, but airport absenteeism was an issue during the last shutdown, snarling traffic for all of us. So be prepared for it to happen again this fall. Delays could also strike U.S. passport offices, so plan for an already bad backlog there to get even worse. Plan to visit a national park or monument? It's possible some will close while others will stay open, just without access to welcome centers or bathrooms. And be warned, it is a very long drive across Yellowstone without a bathroom. Most government watchdogs will also be sidelined, including those who inspect our food, our water, our workplace safety, and our investments. What isn't affected? Social Security checks, Medicare and Medicaid, and the U.S. Postal Service. Now, why again are they doing this? So there was a 5-way budget deal cut in June to avoid default. But now, as we approach the shutdown, one of the parties, House Republicans, is demanding to renegotiate. It's not all House Republicans. just a small group who are blocking Congress from doing any business until their demands are met on major immigration reforms, severe cuts to government programs, and less aid for Ukraine as it defends itself against Russia. None of those positions have broad support in Congress. So why can't House Speaker Kevin McCarthy just ignore this tiny fringe? In short, he wants to save his job. Flashback to January, when it took 15 votes and 5 days just for Republicans to pick a leader. McCarthy won the vote by conceding power to members of the far-right Freedom Caucus. But fast forward to today, and without some of those rebels, he doesn't have enough Republican votes to keep the government running. At the same time, they've warned him his job of Speaker is done if he cuts a deal with Democrats. So despite only representing about 5% of the House, the holdouts have the power to shut down a huge chunk of the government. Finally, what happens next? McCarthy has tried other concessions to try and get the far-right rebels on board, like agreeing to hold impeachment proceedings for President Biden. But once the government's shut down, there's no telling when it will reopen. The last shutdown, initiated by President Trump nearly 5 years ago, lasted more than a month and ultimately did not produce the border wall funding he was demanding. Noah Pransky, NBC News.
Noah Pransky, thanks so much. And there was a second debate last night in the Republican race to retake the White House. And after watching it, I got to say, I kind of see why Donald Trump skipped it. Take a look.
We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you would.
In honor of Ronald Reagan's library, if I may, from one admirer of Ronald Reagan to another. From one admirer of Reagan to another, we cannot sit here and violate Reagan's 11th commandment.
I want to hear about that.
Let's have a policy debate.
What's going on?
Let us have a policy debate.
To be fair, beneath all of the bickering and the talking over one another we saw, was there a clear winner? NBC's Dasha Burns was there to find out.
Yeah, Gadi, a lot of fire on that debate stage last night, but most of the fire actually not aimed at the far and away frontrunner, former President Trump, but as you played there at each other and at the current president, Joe Biden. Take a listen.
Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border.
You know what? If I was giving advice to those workers, I would say go picket in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. That's really where the protest needs to be.
Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line.
Biden showed up on that picket line. But why are those workers actually there? It's because of all of the spending that he has pushed through in the economy that's raised the inflation.
We're missing the point, and every other network is missing the point. The reason why people are striking in Detroit is because Joe Biden's interference with capital markets and with free markets.
President Trump actually wasn't a major topic of conversation, but Florida Governor Ron DeSantis did take some swings at former President Trump, kind of a new tactic for him. Usually he does take a jab at him once he is asked about him directly, but this time he did come out swinging right at the top of his very first answer, potentially a new strategy we might see from him on the campaign trail. The other moment that caught people's attention, back and forth between Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy. Watch.
I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say because I can't believe.
That line from Haley there already turned into a meme that's already making its rounds online. And look, every candidate right now is spinning it in their direction, their campaign, saying that they won the debate. Haley did have a lot of zingers, a strong performance. Ramaswamy took the heat from a lot of candidates, his campaign saying that is a good sign, showing that folks are threatened by him. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, his campaign saying that he stayed on message. He did go after Trump in sort of a new way. And look, I think after the last debate, it took a few days for the dust to settle, for voters to sleep on it a little bit before we saw that bump for Nikki Haley. I think it's going to take a little bit of time again this time around to really see who came out on top. But Gadi, you talk to any political scientist, any political expert, they will tell you that this field, these 7 candidates we saw on the stage, that has to narrow down to one if there is any hope for anyone to beat Donald Trump in this primary. Gadi.
Definitely feels very crowded. NBC's Dasha Burns, thanks so much. And police have finally arrested the man they say killed 26-year-old Baltimore tech CEO Pavel Lepere. But now there's new information coming out about the alleged killer. And police are saying that Jason Billingsley was apparently the main suspect in an attempted murder and rape case that happened just days before Lepere's death. In fact, Baltimore police already had a warrant out for his arrest.
The first incident on Edmondson Avenue was not a random act. Had it been a random act, we would have put out a flyer right away saying that this individual was on the loose committing random acts.
We would have put out a flyer right away. At first, police did not release that information publicly, but a lot of people are now questioning whether that information could have prevented Lepere's murder. NBC's Ron Allen has more from Baltimore.
Yeah, Gadi, this is a horrific case, and the charging documents add a lot of detail to what police believed happened. A lot of questions, though, still as to why Lepere apparently let him into her building where she lived and worked around 11 o'clock that particular night. Then the security video shows them getting on an elevator. Her body is discovered later on the roof, and the cause of death is, according to the medical examiner, strangulation and blunt force trauma. There was other articles found there at the crime scene, including a brick, which gives some indication of what apparently happened. Also, a lot of questions about the police response, because it was revealed that the police had this individual under surveillance. They were tracking him for another crime that had happened a few days before, a crime that of alleged alleged arson, rape, and a house invasion. And the authorities are now saying that they didn't alert the public to this because they thought that this was a targeted incident. Therefore, they didn't raise alarm bells to the public. There's some concerns that if they had, then Lepere's death might have been prevented because the police, the community would have been on alert. But the police said they think they made the right call in this situation nonetheless. And the other question, of course, is how could this individual with this long, violent past and convictions and guilty pleas on sexual offenses, how could he have been released from prison on parole, probation, after serving 7 years of a 14-year sentence? Apparently the law allows that, but today there were calls for changes to the law so that that could never happen again. And today officials are vowing to put this individual away for the rest of his life. Gadi, back to you.
Ron Allen, thanks so much. And there is a lot more to get to tonight, including another shocking discovery at a daycare, this time a trove of ghost guns. Then we're going to talk to 5 skydivers who just set a world record even higher than the peak of Mount Everest. And later, we are going inside the Sphere in Las Vegas. I can't even believe I can't start to tell you what it's like inside that massive sphere, but that means you're going to have to stick around, so stay tuned. Hey there, welcome back. And here are some of the headlines we're watching tonight. President Biden targeted Trump in a speech today in Arizona, calling the MAGA movement extremist and a threat to democracy. Now, this is Biden's 4th speech on his views on the current state of democracy going into a major election year. And the CEO of Hawaiian Electric testified in a House hearing today on the role that the electrical grid played in those deadly wildfires last month, saying the investigation is still ongoing to figure out exactly what happened, and added it may take 12 to 18 months. And singer Cher is accused of hiring 4 men to kidnap her son late last year. And newly revealed court documents are alleging the men forcefully removed Elijah Blue Allman from his hotel room on the night of his wedding anniversary. Now, the accusations come from Allman's estranged wife. Cher has not responded to the allegations. And here's a weird one. These strange dotted circles that you see right there, those are called fairy circles. And according to a new study, there are a lot more of them. They are more widespread than previously thought. AI was used to identify these vegetation patterns that can stretch on for miles, and they found hundreds across 15 countries. They were originally thought to only be common in South Africa. And the actor behind Harry Potter's iconic Dumbledore has died.
Do not pity the dead, Harry. Pity the living. And above all those who live without love.
Sir Michael Gambon's family confirmed his passing, saying he died peacefully after getting sick with pneumonia. Gambon famously took over the role of Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies after Richard Harris died in 2002. He was 82 years old. And that U.S. soldier who ran across the South Korean border into North Korea is now back on American soil. Private Travis King was spotted arriving at a military base in San Antonio early this morning, and NBC's Josh Letterman has more.
Private Travis King is now back on U.S. soil and at Brooke Army Medical Center in the San Antonio area, the same facility where Americans Trevor Reed and Brittany Griner were brought after they were released from detention in Russia. And at that facility, they specialize in something known as post-isolation support. This is a very advanced U.S. military program designed for people who have been held hostage or prisoners of war or wrongfully detained. And it addresses not only their mental health, but also their physical health, as well as trying to help them reintegrate into normal society after periods of time when they were detained outside of the United States. It's unclear how long King will spend there, but he is said to be in good health and in good spirits. A big question, of course, what's going to happen to him next? Will he face disciplinary proceedings within the U.S. military, both for the charges that had already been leveled against him before he crossed into North Korea, and also for going AWOL and entering North Korea illegally? A U.S. Army spokesman today saying first things first, the biggest concern right now is his well-being and his privacy. And later on, the chain of command of the U.S. military will make the decision about what needs to happen administratively to him going forward. And amidst all of this, more questions about the role that China played in facilitating his transfer out of North Korea through China and eventually back to the U.S., with a Chinese government spokesman today saying that China had received requests both from the U.S. and from the Swedish government, which acts on behalf of U.S. interests in North Korea, asking for their help, and that China was willing to play that role out of humanitarian concern.
NBC's Josh Letterman, thanks so much. In Philadelphia, some pretty shocking video night after night. A crime spree there 2 nights in a row with scores of people looting several stores, and all of it caught on camera. Dozens of people have already been arrested, and NBC's George Solis has the latest.
Bold and brazen, looters smashing and grabbing their way through stores in Philadelphia for the second night in a row.
This is not fair. I shouldn't be a victim of this.
Philadelphia police say at least 8 stores were ransacked overnight, including Claudia Simlia's beauty supply shop.
I work overnight, days, 6-7 days a week, so I could get this to here. And this is what happened.
You can really see the extreme measures some criminals took to break into this liquor store, one of many stores hit up overnight. This is after Philadelphia police added extra patrols after Tuesday night's looting. More than 50 people have been arrested for looting this week, including influencer Deja Blackwell, who goes by Meatball online.
Going down right here, yo, ain't nothing.
Police say Blackwell was live streaming on Instagram during Tuesday's chaos, sharing her location and appearing to egg on looters.
Free iPhones! Let me see the iPhone. Oh my God!
Police say at one point, 12,000 people were watching.
Social media is the bane of our life. It accelerates everything.
The district attorney charged Blackwell with 6 felonies, including burglary, conspiracy, and rioting. She has not yet entered a plea.
This person incited a lot of other individuals, coordinated a caravan of individuals to go across the city, hitting multiple locations.
Blackwell, now out on bail. Tonight, she says she regrets her behavior.
Never loot again, stay out of trouble, and never go to jail.
Tonight, Blackwell's social media accounts are still active while affected businesses are still closed. Police say they'll continue to have a large presence in the area. Gadi?
George Solis, thanks so much. And coming up, imagine walking into a government building to prove you're alive, but they still have you marked as dead. That story's coming up. But first, you gotta see this. Something that could make your blood run cold. That is an emotional support alligator trying to go see a baseball game in Philadelphia, but the Phillies said, no, see you later. His name is Wally Gator. He apparently likes to give hugs and get scratched under his chin there. He also gets around on that leash a lot. His owner says Wally Gator came with him to the hospital for cancer treatment. So you could say Wally Gator really helps, and you could call that Gator Gatorade, maybe? Hey, welcome back. And here are some of the stories happening out west. California fast food workers are about to have the highest guaranteed salary in the industry nationwide. Now, the new minimum wage is going to be $20 an hour. Governor Gavin Newsom signed the law today, and it will kick in this April. In New Mexico, a man's been arrested for allegedly shooting someone at a protest there. Now, it was over the installation of a statue of the 16th century Spanish conquistador Juan de Oñate, who the Pueblo people there call a war criminal. The installation is on pause, at least for now, and the man who was shot is being treated at a local hospital. And a construction worker died today in San Francisco after a trench collapsed and he was buried under 8 feet of dirt. Emergency crews worked for about 2 hours to try to save him. They even used a vacuum vehicle to try to suck up that dirt, but sadly, they ran out of time there. Officials are still trying to figure out what caused the collapse. And get this, another New York daycare center has been busted for having a deadly threat within arm's reach of the kids they are supposed to look out for. And police say a daycare in Harlem was being used to produce 3D printed ghost guns. Now, those are the kinds without serial numbers. And last time this happened was 2 weeks ago when a daycare center in the Bronx was being used to stash fentanyl. In that case, a 1-year-old died from suspected fentanyl poisoning. And Chucky Bedford with our local NBC New York City affiliate has more.
Inside this East Harlem apartment used as a licensed daycare, sounds of children at play were common. But new allegations suggest those sounds were covering up something much more sinister, the printing of ghost guns.
This is a heartbreaking scenario of thinking that you're dropping your child off to a place of safe haven just to find out that it was a dangerous environment where someone was making a gun inside.
2 minors and 18-year-old Karen Coley were arrested after NYPD detectives executed a search warrant at his mother's East 117th Street apartment. They found the 3D printing ghost gun operation. Mayor Eric Adams and police officials say multiple printed firearms were found, including 2 completed guns and 1 assault pistol nearly completed. All of this within reach of children.
They were found in an unlocked room.
The NYPD Intelligence Bureau cracking the case, tracing the online purchase of ghost gun parts bought with stolen credit cards.
We follow the data where it leads us, and the data is alarming. Compared to last year, we've recovered 3 times as many 3D printed firearms this year, and the year is not over yet.
What's even more alarming, the discovery comes just 1 week after a 1-year-old child died from fentanyl poisoning at a Bronx daycare, allegedly being used as a front for opioid production.
We found fentanyl in one daycare center. A few days later, we're finding guns. We have to continue to evolve our product.
Raising the question, how are the dangers being missed by daycare inspectors? The East Harlem location passed inspection in February with only minor paperwork violations.
We're looking at things like fire exits. We're looking at window guards.
But Mayor Adams says a change is needed, and he's working with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene on how to improve inspections so these new threats are spotted.
And how to look for firearms, firearm parts, how to look for illegal substance, or even the presence of a manual on how to make a ghost gun. That should pique a further investigation.
Chucky Bedford, thanks so much. All right, so music lovers, listen up, because Amazon Prime is now offering unlimited music to its members for just $1 more per month. And it might not seem like much, but when you add that to all the other subscriptions we've got, Netflix, Hulu, Disney, Peacock, plus how much is too much? NBC's Jake Ward has more.
It's only $1. That's how much more a subscription to Amazon Prime's music will now cost, the company says. $1 here, $1 there. American consumers now paying an estimated $219 a month for streaming subscriptions.
Don't you dare increase something that's not worth it. I'm not about to pay $20 to reminisce.
I have already cut down 3 subscriptions so far. That alone is going to save me over $600 a year.
Oh, man. Between streaming, software, and some random Spanish instruction I forgot about, I'm paying well over $200 a year.
A pioneer of subscription says that's the point.
Often forgetfulness is part of the business model. A lot of organizations do that. They even go so far as to hide the cancel button, to make it hard to get out of the relationship.
And the result is an estimated $5 billion a year for businesses, a number likely to keep growing. Elon Musk says even X, formerly Twitter, may start charging a few dollars to weed out bots.
We're moving to having a small monthly payment for use of the X system.
How do you get out of this loop? Several companies will find and cancel unwanted subscriptions for free, although premium services charge a subscription. Make sure you're not paying for overlapping services. Your cable subscription, for instance, may include streaming apps that you are paying for separately. If you love an app but not the price, switch your subscription to one with ads.
Cancel the ones you no longer use or that you use very little. You're throwing away money otherwise.
Jake Ward, NBC News, San Francisco.
NBC News' Jake Ward with news we could use. Thanks so much, Jake. Now, imagine you're applying for a loan and you get turned down, and it's not because your credit score is too low. It's because the government thinks you're dead. And here's the thing. It is actually not that uncommon. It happens to thousands of people every year. And NBC St. Louis reporter Paula Vassan has the story of one woman who's been trying to convince the government that she is, in fact, alive.
Madeline Michelle Carthen comes here to her favorite park for peace, to escape the anxiety she's been dealing with for 17 years.
A nightmare, corruption, no oversight with government.
Because she says the government thinks she's dead.
It's like a haunting.
Madeline Coburn is a...
5 on Your Side covered her struggle back in 2007. She was a student at Webster University, majoring in entrepreneurship and business technology.
I got denied my financial aid.
Carthen told us the lender even sent her paperwork showing she was deceased. Credit reports showed the same thing.
Now they're saying, prove to us you're not dead.
She couldn't graduate, and nearly 2 decades later,
it messed up my whole life.
The nightmare has gotten worse.
So it's impacted your education. How else has it impacted your life?
It's impacted my life financially, as far as if I wanted to buy a house. That won't happen.
Because she tells us she cannot get a mortgage. She says even keeping a job is nearly impossible.
It's just a matter before my Social Security number catch up with me, and then they have to let me go. HR can't process payroll.
Our investigation finds the government wrongly labels up to 12,000 living Americans as dead every year. It's often simply the result of mistakes. Someone types in the wrong number. It happens to a fraction of a % of people. But when it does happen, the result can be catastrophic. And here's where the problem can start. The Social Security Administration compiles what's called the Death Master File. Once you're added, places like banks, the IRS, and Medicare wipe you out of existence. If you're added by mistake, there is a devastating domino effect.
It can really impact every single aspect of your life.
Says St. Louis attorney Creighton Cohn.
What are people in this position supposed to do?
So the first is to figure out where the information came from. So get your credit report. That's always the first thing to do. And always should get it from annualcreditreport.com.
Carthen tried that and came back with error messages. Attorneys tell the I-Team the next step is to get in touch with the Social Security Administration. Carthen keeps trying, so we tried too. And kept waiting.
Thank you for holding.
For someone to answer. I did get in touch with the agency's media contact. The agency would not talk with us on camera. In an email, a spokesperson said its records are highly accurate and that of the 3 million death reports it receives each year, less than 1/3 of 1% are subsequently corrected. But Carthen tells us for her, the problem is far from solved.
I just want direct answers, and I haven't been able to get that.
The direct answer is she's alive. That is a wild story. Paula Vassan with NBC St. Louis. Thank you so much. And still to come tonight, an absolutely massive warehouse explosion in Uzbekistan. Then an NBC News exclusive look inside of a nuclear submarine. And later, you've seen the crazy video from outside that massive sphere in Las Vegas, but we got a sneak peek at what's on the inside, and it is actually more impressive. We're going to show you why coming up. Hey, welcome back, and let's take a quick look around the world in 80 seconds. A massive explosion in Uzbekistan has killed one person and hurt over 100 others. Now, this happened early this morning at a warehouse near a local airport. Officials say a teenager died after a window frame fell on him, and the exact cause of the explosion is still being investigated. And ethnic Armenians are still leaving their self-declared Republic of Artsakh by the thousands. Armenian authorities say that it will cease to exist by January. The government says that they are dissolving it in the wake of Azerbaijan's takeover, which started last week. And since then, over 70,000 Armenians have fled that area. And Taiwan has unveiled their first submarine that they developed themselves. And this is a big step for the country as it tries to protect itself against China, which says the island actually belongs to them. Officials say the sub will start being used by its military in 2025. And an ancient burial site has been uncovered in Mexico in an area that will soon be part of a major tourist project. Archaeologists found a skeleton along with different kinds of ceramics and jewelry, and that area was once home to a large Mayan city. And have you ever wondered how the final moments before a nuclear attack would go down? Or how about this? What would those final moments be like if you were on one of the Navy's nuclear submarines? NBC's Courtney Kuby got exclusive access as one of the crews put on a critical test. Take a look.
Hidden deep in the ocean, one of the Navy's most lethal floating weapons performing a final test to get cleared for its next mission. The USS Louisiana, known as a boomer, carries up to 20 nuclear missiles. Concealed hundreds of feet below the surface, it keeps enemies guessing about where and when it could strike.
The sole mission is to go to sea, is to survive, and is to deter major power conflict through nuclear deterrence.
I'm standing in the middle of dozens of missile launch tubes. Inside them, the Trident long-range nuclear missile. Now, it's meant to deter America's enemies from striking. But if that doesn't work, the crew of this submarine have to be ready to launch one of these at a moment's notice.
They practice launches dozens of times. It starts with a dive.
Last man down, hatch secured. Emergency ship to 160 feet. Aye, sir. Dive.
A 21-year-old is driving the sub.
All vents open. Dive. Dive.
The run-through begins with an order to launch.
Man, battle station missile for training.
Captain, message is a valid execution. Captain, the launch is authorized.
And just like in the movies, a turning of launch keys.
Weapons con, you have permission to fire.
And push of a red button.
21, away.
This week's test, a success. The last step before the Louisiana can go back out to sea after an overhaul. It's a sobering mission for these sailors. Staying hidden is so critical that they wear sneakers so their footsteps can't be heard. They're at sea for months at a time with little to no communication except the occasional email.
You're in an encapsulated tube, so you want to know what's going on in the outside world.
They live among the missiles.
After a while, you just kind of walk past them every day, and it's just like walking past your closet.
An underwater mission critical to American security. Courtney Kuby, NBC News, underneath the Pacific Ocean.
Most stressful story of the day. Courtney, thanks so much. And before we go, it is time for the future of everything and the absolutely unbelievable skydiving record just set over the New Mexico desert. Then we're going to take you inside the giant sphere in Las Vegas everyone's talking about, so you don't want to miss it. And time now for the future of everything. And tonight we've got some very special guests who just made history from 38,000 feet in the air. We're going to get to all that in just a minute. But first, one of our favorite subjects, AI. If you've tried to look something up recently on ChatGPT, but then you hit that, sorry, I only know stuff up to September 2021 response, well, not anymore. OpenAI is opening up its chatbot to the most current internet, but for now, it's only open to those with Plus and Enterprise subscriptions, with plans to expand to all users pretty soon. And Meta is back at it again, trying to make smart glasses happen with their partnership with Ray-Ban. The main takeaway here are the updated audio and camera capabilities and live streaming from the glasses to Facebook or Instagram. And they've also come with Meta's voice-activated AI assistant. And no, this right here, this is not a deleted scene from iRobot. What you're looking at right now looks like it could be the world's first mass-produced humanoid robot. It is called the Fourier GR1, made by Shanghai-based company Fourier Intelligence. It can walk, avoid things, perform simple tasks like holding a water bottle. The goal is for the GR1 to transform healthcare by offering assistance to the elderly. And speaking of future, there is no way that by now you haven't seen pictures or video of this, like people that have gone to Vegas and found themselves mesmerized by that gigantic shining sphere. On the outside are 1.2 million high-definition LEDs shimmering in the desert air, but on the inside, it is so overwhelming, so overflowing with technology. It is something you need to see, hear, and feel to believe. It officially opens tomorrow, but we got a sneak peek inside, so take a look.
Right off the Vegas Strip is the future of entertainment in a way only science fiction could predict. Some calling it eye-catching. To others, it's out of this world. And when words fail, there's always an emoji.
At what point did you realize the price tag was gonna keep ballooning?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The about halfway through the project, the construction project, I was sitting up on top of like the 8th floor. 9th and 10th floor hadn't been built yet, and I was looking down on what is now all of this, right? And I just got one of those sinking feelings like, what are you doing? And but it was too late then, and we just kept moving.
What is your name?
My name's Gadi.
And I'm Jim.
Gadi
We've
and
met
Jim,
before.
welcome to Sphere.
What are you hoping people feel when they come in? From the doors, from the robots, from the, I don't know if they're holograms, I still haven't figured it out yet, but from everything that they're seeing, even before getting into the Sphere.
I want people to be enchanted when they come here. I want them to feel awe, but mostly I want them to feel enchanted. I want them to feel like they're stepping into the future, right? That there's something here that they've never experienced before, and I want them to love it.
Are you getting my good side?
You say enchanted, and yet...
I think you're enchanted.
I am, man. You say enchanted, and yet there's math on the walls. Like you have decorated
isn't that
this
a great
place.
thing?
Yeah, it's incredible. Like you have science as decoration on the walls.
Science is enchanting. You like science fiction, right? I love science fiction. It's enchanting. It sparks the imagination. This place is meant to do that.
And just beyond 5 Aura robots is a taste of the most baffling sound system in the world.
Okay. So if you stand here,
I can hear the music here.
You hear the music here. Come into the circle. That's a certain. Oh, all right. I got some saxophone here.
Right. That's not a solo. That's
No, it's all part of a bigger group. Come over here.
Okay.
Oh.
This sounds like a solo. This sounds like a guitar solo.
Sounds like a guitar solo, but it's not. Now you're back to sax.
And then we got the sax solo. You're isolating each instrument.
I'm isolating each instrument into a beam.
All of this starting with a simple sketch from Jim Dolan, owner of some of the most storied venues on Earth, who decided to reimagine entertainment with a $2.3 billion gamble in the desert.
What was your reaction when you saw it turn on?
Well, I was enchanted too. I mean, it was awesome. We designed it, we visualized it, and it's so big. When we turned the sphere into the moon, it looks like the moon is sitting on top of the Earth. And that was just an amazing moment.
And finally, inside the sphere within a sphere, 168,000 square feet of high-definition LEDs, 167,000 speakers, 17,000 seats, and 10,000 of them powered by haptics.
It's impossible to describe, right? It's like trying to explain what a peanut butter and jelly sandwich tastes like to somebody who's never tasted one.
This weekend, U2 claiming the first residency, followed closely by another fully immersive experience called Postcards from Earth. All about this even bigger sphere that we all call home.
I mean, I just again, blown away at the science and the fiction all fusing together. In terms of what the sphere has already started to mean to Las Vegas, is that something that you anticipated?
Yes, I think Las Vegas was the perfect place to start.
I'm sorry, did you say perfect place to start?
Yes, perfect place to start.
So the sphere of influence will be expanding.
Well, we're going to build more spheres. We're going to build them all over the world. This is just the first one.
While on the outside, the cosmic shape constantly shifting for the rest of the world to see.
And a new world record has been set today high above the New Mexico desert, where this massive balloon, fully inflated at more than 100 feet high, became the latest platform for this insane skydiving jump. Now, the team on board was made up of 4 elite spec ops kind of guys, along with entrepreneur Larry Connor. And they dropped down from 38,000 feet. That is higher than the tallest peak of Mount Everest. And for those keeping track, that's a 7-mile fall all the way back down to Earth.
We were able to link up together. If you ask me exactly what height, I don't know, but we were able to do it. We had plenty of margin for safety. The fact of the matter is we were able to do this not because of any particular individual, but because of a total team effort.
And speaking of that team effort, with us now are the new world record holders, Chris Leyes, Jimmy Petrolia, Larry Connor, Robert Dieguez, and Brandon Doherty. Welcome to all of you guys. Great to see you back down here on Earth. A new world record. How does it feel? I imagine it feels a little warmer than it did way up there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really gratifying. Credit goes to the entire team. By the way, not just the 5 of us sitting here. We had a team of over 50 people, many of them volunteers. There's no way that this world record would have happened without planning, dedication, perseverance, and great team effort.
And the goal here was to raise money for charity as well, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the Special Operations Warrior Fund?
Yeah, so certainly there was a challenge to set the world record, but equally important is the purpose. And the purpose is the 4 individuals here are the best of the best, special operators in the Air Force. And so we wanted to not only honor them, but honor all the special operations people. And so Special Operations Warrior Foundation, been in existence 40 years, supports the families of fallen special operators people, and has done just incredible work helping over 1,500 families. So we would ask all of your viewers to consider making a donation, whether it's $10, $25, whatever you can. It's a great cause.
And Larry, I know you don't look it, but you're like 73, right? You're exactly how I'm hoping to age. And when you look at your adventure resume, mission to the International Space Station already, Mariana Trench, how does this compare?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the comments, but the reality is it's not about age. It's about mindset. It's about planning. It's about teammates. And so, in my view, people really don't understand what they're capable of doing. And if you have people like these 4 individuals here, and then you have a purpose, you can't just do it. There has to be some meaning, has to be some purpose. And the Special Operations Warrior Foundation is an incredible organization that's done incredible work over the last 40 years.
And was there a moment for all of you guys there that was most memorable about this particular jump?
Yeah, so I would say the most memorable point for me in the jump was we were somewhere around 37,000. And I kind of tapped Larry on the head. I tapped Rob, and I told him to look up at the balloon. And when you look up, we actually had a contrail going. We had smoke all around the entire balloon. And when you look at it from the ground, it's wild because it was just a beautiful blue sky. But then we had this white cloud around us, almost like something was wrapping its arms around us. And it was absolutely beautiful and breathtaking. And you got to remember, at those altitudes, You can see everything, and it's and out of a balloon, it's dead quiet. So it's just an incredible, breathtaking view, and it's second to none. You can truly enjoy it, and so that was for me the time where I just got to take a deep breath and just enjoy the trip.
Speaking of contrails, I mean, you see that jump, you can see the frost coming off of your bodies. Was it as cold as it looks?
Oh yeah, it was extremely cold. I think we were
minus 50.
Yeah, minus 50 degrees Celsius, I believe.
You know, we were prepared for it, right? We had the right equipment on, and believe it or not, the balloon with the burners, you know, continuously going, getting us up to altitude. It actually provided quite a bit of warmth in that basket. So it was tolerable. It wasn't until we're actually standing on the platform ready to jump off that you kind of feel the cold and you feel kind of the winds. But it was, you know, that all pales in comparison to the views, the sunrise, and then like the contrail that Brandon was talking about.
With that said,
you guys are
any exposed skin and you've got frostbite.
Yeah, Alpha 5, you guys are an inspiration. Thank you guys so very much for joining us. And that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and we'll see you tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.